Welcome to Capital Pulse, the show where we sit down with fund managers, entrepreneurs, and business builders to unpack what it really takes to scale, the wins, the gaps, and the habits behind high performance. I'm Alice Chen, a multi-time founder and private equity fund manager who's seen the inside of both operational bottlenecks and breakthrough systems. After 15 years of building and exiting businesses, I've learned that growth often comes down to this: the ability to remove friction, unlock efficiency, and keep your edge as the game changes. This podcast is about discovering those edges. Each episode, you'll hear raw conversations with leaders who are building at scale. And together, we'll explore how they're staying ahead in a world that's moving faster than ever. Let's dive in. Welcome, Matthew.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's great to be here.
Um, Tell us about your current role in business.
Yeah, so um, I am the co-CEO of a real estate management company and brokerage based in Washington, D.C. called Gordon James Realty. And we've been doing, or we, own the business now for a little over 12 years. And have, recently seen a lot of shifts in the industry. So looking forward to chatting with you about that.
Okay, amazing. And may I ask, like, what inspired you to start or step into this business? Like, tell us about your journey. How did you get
Yeah.
into this line of work?
Yeah, so I mean, it was sort of an interesting journey. I mean, and I say we, I own the business with my twin brother, and so we started our careers in more the corporate world, and then we saw an opportunity though in college student housing, and so about a year after college, we bought our first student housing rental property in upstate New York. And then slowly over the years, accumulated more and more properties. And so what we saw firsthand was the challenges of the actual property management piece, right? I mean, it's very
Mhm.
different, valuing what the property should be bought for and sort of finding deals. We always view that as actually the easier part of it. We always found the management piece to be the more challenging part. And so we looked for management companies where they're located and we couldn't find any good ones. And so we decided to just do it ourselves. And so we learned really quickly how to be effective managers of properties. And yes, we're the owners, but like we're essentially acting as the management company. And so that actually started my brother and I thinking, well, what does the market look like in DC? We knew that it was a highly transient market. We also liked the fact that, a lot of people are deployed, whether it be through DoD or wherever, for a period of maybe 3 to 5 years overseas.
Mhm.
And so there's a lot of need for, management companies to be managing their properties while they were away. And so we started the company on that premise. Initially got into the individual management of individual homes, condos in and around DC, and then slowly expanded our business really organically into the HOA business. That came about because we had a lot of owners that were super happy with us on the unit management side, and they said, "Hey, we're not happy with our HOA management company. Do you guys do this?" And so that is sort of how we got started in that. And then we also have the brokerage arm as well.
Okay, great. So, what is the split between your management business and the brokerage business?
So much more heavily weighted towards the management, probably a 85 or 90-10 split.
Okay. And give us a sense of the scale. So, how big is the management business? Like, how many people do you employ? Do you start to use some automation systems as
Yeah.
well these days?
Yeah, so we have over 40 employees. I mean, one of the things that we did, which I think was a little bit unique for property management companies. So, I mean, another reason why we wanted to get into this space, we did feel like for the most part it was relatively antiquated and that there was not much use of technology that companies were utilizing. And so we decided to dive headfirst into basically building our platform on the Salesforce platform. And so, over the course of probably 5 or 6 years, I mean, it was costly, but also like a lot of, time put into that on the development side. We finally rolled that out a couple of years ago. And so we did that with the intention of being able to actually embed processes within the Salesforce platform to help sort of make things more efficient on the management side of things. So things as simple as, for example, sending or lease agree or our team is sending a lease agreement. It would be sent directly from the Salesforce platform with, all the rent amounts, the security deposit already in that system under that account profile.
Okay.
And so there was a lot of sort of cost savings by utilizing a platform like Salesforce. There's a lot of other pre-built non-custom ones out there. But yeah, so we're on Salesforce.
Oh, okay, great. And is your portfolio in DC mostly these days? Have you aggregated them in your area?
Yeah, so I mean, are mostly in DC, although we have a good presence in Virginia as well. So northern sort of Virginia area as well as in Maryland. In the DMV area, which is what they call sort of the surrounding area of DC. I mean, there's I think
Yeah,
42 million people. And so it's relatively dense, right? And
yeah.
so the city itself of DC population is like 700,000. And so it is important that we sort of expanded outside of that, which we have done. And so, yeah, so we service the surrounding areas.
Oh, okay, great. And like how many doors do you guys cover or
Yeah, so
manage?
we cover about 7,500 doors.
Okay, yeah, congratulations. That's
Yeah, thank you.
that's huge.
Yeah, a lot of hard work put into that. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so I would ask you about this. So looking back, what's an achievement you're most proud of in this business that shows how far you and your team have come?
I think something that I'm most proud of is the retention that we have on our staff. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, the most important part of our business is the people that we have working with us, and so that for me, sort of the biggest achievement for us is that we've had excellent employee retention. And I would say as the industry as a whole, that's a really challenging thing for most other companies is to
Mhm.
retain good talent. And so yeah, so I mean, that's what we've done a really good job of.
Okay, and what's your secret sauce? Like what makes you, a great employer to work for?
And the secret sauce is to make sure that we're setting sort of parameters in place with our clients, right? So that they don't have the expectation they can reach out to their account manager, past sort of the normal business working hours. And so we have we actually employ the after hours sort of call service directly, right? So they're members of our team. And so that alleviates the account managers, many of whom have families, from having to answer a call after hours or on a weekend. And so I think, sort of by putting these things in place, we're allowing our account managers to have a much better work-life balance, thereby having a much higher retention than we would otherwise.
Sure. And I take it that your after hours team is onshore as well from the sound of
Yes.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I'm personally, a fan of the onshore teams too. I find that sure there's a lot of VA agencies out there. And you're paying $3 to $5 per hour to an offshore VA, but often I find that that actually brings a lot of friction to the
Yeah.
organization.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is
And
that something that you've tried and then kind of, reverted to the onshore team, or have you just always stuck to the onshore as a solution?
so, I mean, probably 7 or 8 years ago, we did explore the sort of VA, the traditional, virtual assistant route. And what we found though is that, because again, I mean, we're in a business where the clients they decide to work with us based on, how effective our communication skills are, and they really expect someone to just have really good, effective communication. And so we just found that number one, sort of vetting the, sort of offshore people was really challenging. And the second part of that was that we couldn't figure out a good way to integrate them with our US based team. And so that created some sort of friction, right? Like you mentioned. And it actually became less efficient, right? Because there
Yeah.
was always communication kind of gap.
Ups. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found that myself as well. So in terms of managing kind of the daytime team, if you will,
Yeah.
transitioning to the nighttime team, what are some practices that you have put in place to minimize friction and to kind of ensure the handoff or the transition or customer communication is ultra smooth?
So I mean, from a high level, we we rely on dashboards a lot, right? The dashboards are embedded into Salesforce. So our managers, when they're on a day-to-day basis, we look to them to be reviewing these dashboards, and the dashboards are linked with the help desk software that we use. And so the purpose of that is, we're tracking things on the sort of, perspective of how long has it been since someone has gotten a reply. If it's over 2 days during, Monday through Friday, then the manager would make sure that, that's being addressed with that account manager. And so on a high level, we look at that data, or the managers do. On a more granular level, though, we also like just try to have really good team trainings, and we want ideally the team to be collaborative. I mean, without the collaboration of the team, then the managers are bogged down because all the questions are going to them. And so, I mean, ultimately, with a tenured team like we have, because we've retained a lot of people, the benefit of that is that a new hire can go to the person sitting right next to them, to ask a question that I'm sure is a situation they've been involved with, a lot. And so that we find really helpful. It's also just a really good way to train the team beyond just the sort of biweekly trainings that we hold. And so they learn, I would say, even more from their colleagues than they do from some of the management that we have.
Hmm. Okay. And in addition to Salesforce, which it sounds like you guys are power users, by
Yeah.
now, it's great that you put in the hard work 7, 8 years ago to migrate the
Yeah.
entire team onto the platform. Have you begun to start exploring some maybe customized solutions or AI-driven solutions?
We have, I mean, so I mean, Salesforce and Mark Benioff, the CEO, I mean, they've
Yeah.
invested heavily and made, I don't know, like 20 billion in acquisitions, right, of AI related companies. And so clearly there will probably be a use case for that once it gets kind of fully rolled out. I
Okay.
mean, right now, and I think maybe what a lot of other companies are struggling with too is, how should it be used during the day-to-day operations to, help, or to, I mean, ultimately help the company provide a higher level of service to our clients. And so, I mean, we're testing out sort of a lot of different things. I mean, honestly, mainly using ChatGPT, just in terms of, responses to clients, or, sort of looking at what that might look like. But
Mhm.
in terms of, which I think is the ultimate goal that we have, is to have some sort of integration with Salesforce and potentially with these AI agents.
PR. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that we see as a real sort of, next step for us. But we just, haven't done much with that quite yet. And we don't think it's necessarily ready, maybe right now, for us to fully utilize, right? So
Yeah.
it's,
What, any idea when they are looking to roll that out?
I don't know. I mean, um, we looked into it, maybe 9 months ago, and haven't looked into it since. I mean, it's a time commitment as well. And so we
Yeah.
just want to be mindful of kind of, does it make sense for us to, dedicate a good amount of time? I
Yeah.
think Salesforce maybe has rolled it out, but we haven't tested it or haven't done anything with it quite yet.
Okay, okay, sounds good. And so in your journey and in terms of scaling your business, like what is the balance between kind of scaling revenue and keeping operationals costs lean? So I think it's always a delicate balance, right? So
It
what's
is.
your personal philosophy on that?
So, I mean, we have found that the bigger that we get, the more clients that we have, for example, our software spend, right? That cost doesn't necessarily go up, right, incrementally as we bring on more and more clients. I mean, it gets to a certain point and, it essentially almost plateaus, or,
Yeah.
might increase 3 to 4% per year. And so from a scale perspective, like the actual overhead or ongoing running of the business actually becomes less costly. And yeah, I mean, it's a balance between, again, we're at the core of it, a service-based company, right? So we have to be providing good service. And so what we don't want is there to be a trade-off, between high growth and not providing the same level of service. And
Mhm.
so much of that we learned through experience, which is basically we have to have probably more staff than we need to be overstaffed, to essentially be able to, accommodate the new clients that are coming in without disruption. I think before we were going too lean with the staff and probably trying to give too many accounts to said account manager. And then if someone were to leave, or if we brought on a lot of clients in Q4, which is typically our busiest to align with the fiscal year, then it made servicing them much, much more difficult. So we're overstaffed to accommodate for future growth.
Yeah.
It was sort of the lesson that we learned early on. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's a great strategy. So, um, yeah, so it sounds like you are very mindful about accommodating growth. So
Yeah.
implementing systems and, new technology to optimize for growth. Definitely on the client service side, but maybe outreach. Are you finding that mostly clients come to you these days, or are you doing any type of sales outreach as well?
So that's something that we've been discussing more this year, right? Is to have a sort of more proactive outbound marketing outreach. And so no, I mean to date and through the history of our company, we haven't actually done a ton of that. And I think thankfully we get the vast majority of our clients that are contacting us.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's the nature of this business. I mean, yes, it is fragmented in a way, but also there aren't a lot of established management companies, like different ones, that can, for example, serve, HOAs or associations. And so that puts us in this you know, pretty good spot in
Yeah.
terms of much of the leads just coming to us directly. We have had very good sort of conversion rates in terms of amount of marketing sort of that we sent versus what converts. And so we
Yeah.
found that direct mail actually is effective. Not, and we don't do it through a third party mailing company, which we found to not be effective. It looks too spammy. But we have our own, admin that will actually put together the envelopes.
Mhm.
And there's a letter, and we've had good response rates from that. We
Okay.
did it the other way with a third party, didn't have the same response rates. So, it goes into kind of the care that we put into that. But that's probably the only form of marketing outbound that we do currently, but looking to kind of do more of that.
Sure. Okay. Sounds great. So yeah, let's talk about the industry trend. I think before, you came on the podcast, we were talking a little bit more about private equity, and you're seeing a lot of interest. So yeah, so talk to our audience about what you're seeing in the property management space,
Yeah.
in your industry, and yeah, and what's the interest from private equity world?
Yeah, I mean, starting this company, we never could have imagined that private equity would actually take such an interest in property management.
Mhm.
But to your point, and we talked about this earlier, like the interest that we've been seeing, especially over the last year and a half from private equity, has grown more and more. And I mean, I think partially that's due to the fact that we're a recurring revenue based business,
Mhm.
and the industry as a whole, I mean, it's still highly fragmented, so there's a ton of mom and pop shops out there. So private equity looks at maybe a good well established management company as being that platform company, with the intent that they'll do a bunch of tuck-ins with other management companies. The other side of this too, though, is they see a real opportunity in the insurance part of offering insurance to associations, boards, individual unit owners, right? And so having, they may have a sort of a piece at that. The other side too is, a lot of management companies earn a lot from their banking relationships.
Mhm.
And so with all the deposits that we, have, right, with all the clients, banks look at that as a really important relationship. So based on that, we have the opportunity to get, an interest rate that's set by the bank. And so it's another good sort of, in a way, recurring revenue stream. And then I think ultimately as well, there's ancillary services that are really of interest to private equity, including, plumbing companies and other sort of roll-ups. And so, yeah, I mean, surprised by the interest, really good or great to see.
Mhm.
But there has been a lot more activity than we, have seen in the past.
Okay. So, are you, fielding interest and requests from these firms? Are
Yeah.
they talking about like a full buyout? Or are they talking about partial investment, giving you growth equity?
Yeah, so I mean, we are talking to a few, and we have talked to a few. I mean, ultimately, we're young. I mean, we're 39, my brother and I. And so, I mean, much of the conversations are around, yeah, taking a little bit off the table, but also being really a part of that growth story, right? And potentially being that platform company that they're building around. That for us is really of interest rather
Mhm.
than just a straight buyout where they tuck us into another company and someone else runs it. And so yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of exciting, I think, things that could happen in the next, couple months or year.
Mhm.
We are, yeah, looking into a couple opportunities.
Okay, great. And what is your personal, vision if you could wave a magic wand to make something come true? Let's say 5 years from now, 10 years from now,
Yeah.
what does that look like? Is it you running a company that consolidated your industry? Like, what does it look like?
Yeah. I mean, it's me running a company that, um, yeah, I mean, help the industry consolidate, right? And ideally, not just in property management, but I'm a firm believer, though, in the opportunity that, sort of lies outside of that. And we're looking at what really interests me and what interests me about property management, starting this company up front was, what businesses are more recession proof than others. I mean, property management being one of them. Landscaping services, not so much. When there's a recession, people will typically cut back on that. And so when you're looking at like what's actually needed, HVAC, plumbing, and really property management, and in the next 3 to 5 years, would love the opportunity to also build out, an HVAC arm as well as a plumbing arm. I mean, that would be very much of interest to me, as well as, even trash hauling or garbage company, and maybe roofing. I mean, those are all the sort of, core sort of needs that our clients have on a pretty consistent basis.
Yeah.
And so those other businesses also, interest me a lot.
Okay, great. Well, I'm excited for,
Yeah.
for you and for your vision. I can totally see that. It's just basically, having the entire ecosystem
Yeah.
consolidated and kind of run
Yeah.
smoothly. That's awesome. So now I would love to, go into a little bit of a discussion about your personal high performing habits. So it's not every day that someone is in college and started to offer student housing or get into that space and then they build it to the scale that you have accomplished. So what are some top habits or systems that you personally rely on that's kind of given you an outsized return on your time or result?
I think it starts with, for me, I mean, having a very consistent routine, right? And so some may call it more regimented. I mean, I really call that discipline, right? So it's having the discipline throughout the day, to, sort of manage your time from the time that you wake up. And so I'm an early riser, probably 5 or 5:30. And an important part of my routine is to go to the gym. So some form of physical exercise. I do find that, my day after that is just so much better and I have more energy. And then, I mean, ultimately, what my brother and I really practice as well, is, incorporating meditation into our sort of daily routine. By in the morning, maybe a 10 to 15 minute meditation, and then throughout the day, taking a pause for, even 5 minutes,
Mhm.
to sort of reset. And so what that allows us to do is, not get caught up in sort of the minutia of the day and what's actually happening, but is to take a step back. And it really helps kind of reprioritize and, gives me much clearer view of what the actual main priority is. I mean, we're in a business that we have thousands of transactions on a monthly basis, and we're also in a business that our job is to handle problems, right? It's
Yeah.
under, issues that come up from clients. And so we, number one, are well aware of that. Number two, though, it's, I mean, how do you actually, see beyond that?
Yeah.
Um, and sort of keep calm during the day. And it's really through these practices and really meditation that, has allowed us to do that.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, I'm a meditator as well. I've been
Nice.
trained in the fashion of TM, Transcendental
Yeah. Yeah.
Meditation. Yeah, I'm curious what form you follow.
Yeah, so TM was kind of what we started with. I mean, and um there's just I mean, there's a local community here, that we are very much involved with, and our older brother as well is, essentially kind of a mentor for us. And so yeah, I mean, so we're involved with TM still, but we also, look outside of that to just, sort of see what makes us feel the best. I mean, ultimately, any form of meditation is better than, not meditating. And
Yeah.
so, Yeah, I mean, we're still exploring and kind of, seeing what's out there, but yeah, it's been amazing.
Yeah, sometimes I find that if I'm really pressed for time, if I just literally close my eyes for 5 minutes and do nothing,
Yeah,
that is a form of meditation already,
it
and that
is. I mean,
helps.
and those the 5 minute kind of meditations throughout the day that we do. I mean, it's literally just looking, straight, or I might look behind me
Yeah,
and just kind of gaze. I mean, that is a form of meditation as well. I mean, it truly allows you to kind of reset, right? And
yeah.
so I find that with meditation, just being too rigid is really not the approach. And I think it makes it a lot more difficult to do.
Okay.
And so, yeah, you've got to kind of find what works for you, but this, definitely does.
I love it. Yeah. So it sounds like you have a big emphasis on regulating your state and you
Yes.
always want to operate from an optimized state.
Exactly. A piece, yeah, I mean, working from that optimized state versus a, unregulated chaotic state, you get a lot less done during that chaotic, if you're in that chaotic state. Also, I hear so many people, when they're talking to me, say how little time they have in the day. I
Mhm.
mean, much of that I think goes back to just sort of the chaos that, runs much of our day-to-day lives.
Yeah.
And and sort of, what taking a calmer approach through meditation or exercise, what that actually does, it gives you a lot more time during the
Yeah.
day because you're really just, prioritizing and working on the most important things.
Okay, amazing. And are there, or what would you say would be some areas where you are working on improving for yourself? So whether it's habits, whether it's routines or systems or dealing with your staff, like what are some areas that you're currently working on?
Yeah, I mean, so there's, always so much that, I'm working on. And I recognize, a lot of the deficiencies that I probably still have. And I think, I mean, ultimately with talking about the staff, right? It's really just reducing or minimizing the number of meetings that we have on a regular cadence. I mean, when I ask myself, like, do I have much to talk about in this meeting tomorrow? I mean, I'll typically ask one person who's attending what their thoughts are, and typically it'll be, very much aligned with how I'm thinking about it. Where, if it begins to feel like a grind, we should probably reduce the cadence of those meetings instead of once every 2 weeks, do once every 4 weeks.
Mhm.
And that gives people back that time as well, right? And it also just minimizes the fatigue or whatever that you feel when you're just attending meeting after meeting. Yeah.
Okay, and I assume that means you have implemented some sort of reporting system, so your team is giving you the dashboard or reporting to you in some way, so you can just check those
Yes. Yeah. So
systems.
with the managers, we have a once per month regular recurring meeting.
Yeah.
And in that meeting, we'll be reviewing the dashboards. I mean, this is something that I also do in the mornings. Typically, I'll look at, the dashboards that I have access to, and I'll review those as part of my kind of morning routine. Um, and then we'll meet with the broader team once every 2 months or so, just to kind of give an update about the business. And I mean, ultimately, we're all driving. We all want all of us driving towards the same end goal, and it could look different for other people, but there's a sort of, I mean, we think it's important to have that kind of get together, once every 2 months,
Mhm.
with the broader team to kind of keep them, apprised of what's happening, where our growth is. I mean, all of those exciting, fun things. We want them to be proud, to be working for our company too.
Okay, amazing. So yeah, do you have any other kind of, biohacks or any other advice for our audience in terms of whether it's improving personal habits or improving, interactions with the team or scaling or keeping your vision alive. I often feel like this journey of being an entrepreneur is more like a marathon, it's less like a sprint. So it
Yeah.
sounds like this vision that you have is still very much like alive and well and growing. So yeah, so any words of advice on how to keep that,
Yeah, I
keep
mean,
that going?
well, I think the one that I've really learned over the years is to, as a good leader, you listen more than you talk, right? So that's something that, I mean, it's truly a practice you have to build over time. And so that's been a really important part of sort of our journey on this, sort of path. We don't actually have all the answers anymore because we're not in much of the day to day. And so for us to understand what's happening in our business, we rely on our, employees to tell us, right? So many of those conversations we're doing, 80% listening, versus doing more of the talking. So that was a big shift for us. And then ultimately, I mean, there's going to be bumps along the road, right? I mean, anything, I mean, that's is part of being an entrepreneur. And that's also, the scariest thing about being an entrepreneur is that you are the one ultimately held, responsible, right? If something were to happen, like you can't rely on your manager or the CEO because that's, I am the CEO. And so, it's just sort of, for me at least, it was just like reframing sort of that for myself in terms of I mean, how do I look at that without it, sort of make me not feel good or being too stressful? I mean, much of that is just prioritizing the most important things during the day
Mm,
to allow myself to have enough energy when those things do come up where I need to actually handle them, that I'm able to. I mean, I think when we first started, because you're wearing multiple hats, right? Like it was really challenging when something big came up. It felt like, the world was kind of crashing down.
mm,
And for it to not feel like a house on sand, it is, very much just reducing the unnecessary meetings, work, whatever, and just focusing and reprioritizing the most important things for our business, which is really growth and how we're gonna, hit the goals that we've set for ourselves.
mm,
And then also be that person that, if something really comes up that's super important that they need me for, that I'm just fully there present and, ready to help them.
hmm. Yeah, that's great. So what does that look like? Does that mean you set aside some time during the day to accommodate any unforeseen things that arise that maybe the team needs from you? Or is it that, like, for example, I try to write down the three things that will move the needle the most every
Yeah.
day, like first thing in the morning, or what is your personal practice? I'm curious.
I mean, so my personal practice, yes, I mean, I do journal in the morning, right? So, I mean, having kind of for me, it's like five or six things that I'm really focused on. And typically for the week, I mean, not for the day. Normally, if I did it for the day, I tend to not be able to get through all of them. So I keep it at a sort of, what does a week goal look like? But also, what does the end of this year look like? Or we talk about it in a, 2 to kind of 3 year plan. What do we want the
Yeah.
company to look like in that time frame? Um, and then in terms of like, sort of structuring my day, and what I'm trying to do is just minimize disruptions as best I can, while also though still being there for the team, right? And so that's kind of a difficult balance. What I've found works the best, is if something does come up, is, they'll go ahead and they'll schedule time on my calendar, typically for the following day, or if it's urgent, it'll be later today, that allows me to see it come through and I can prepare myself a little bit prior to that meeting versus them just calling me and needing to kind of get right into it. I find that pretty disruptive
Yeah.
and really challenging to actually get a bigger project done, right? That's what it's kind of the disruptions that make, sort of the less time in the day and all that stuff that we're all trying to not do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's just owning my calendar, my schedule, and really sort of being the boss of that and structuring
Mm.
my day in a way that works for me, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Matthew. Thank you for your words of wisdom and congratulations on all your accomplishments. And
Yeah,
I wish
thank you so
you
much.
continued success. Yeah. Thank you for coming on to our show.
No, thank you for having me. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, really appreciated that.
Okay. We are a wrap. Great job.
How'd I do?
Yeah. Very good. I thought that was a very good one. And, I love that you're very genuine and very authentic. You're just being you. So, yeah, the audience will love that.
Thank you. I mean, and I probably should mention this on the podcast, but the two, I mean, the sort of for the meditation,
Yeah.
um, this guy, Michael Singer, who has
Okay.
a
I've
really
heard of him. Okay.
interesting background. So our older brother, I didn't want to mention this on the podcast, but our oldest brother lived at his temple for about 5 years, but he also wrote these two books.
Okay.
One's called The Surrender Experiment, which, I mean, essentially like he was running a company that I think he had sold for like a couple hundred million or $1 billion while
Okay.
still like, living in, this cabin in Florida. And it's actually where that temple is that he has. And he still does morning and evening, I think 7 days a week. People actually live at the temple or they'll, come visit. And he'll still lead these sort of lessons, right? And so that, his book and sort of hearing the teachings from my oldest brother, like have found very transformative in the way that, we approach our business actually, because it is about creating more space and time in the day.
Okay.
And, that guy has some amazing practices to actually do that. But that book, yeah, is super good.
Oh, amazing. Okay, I'm gonna check it out. And I feel like
Yeah.
the messenger to send me that message
What
today.
was that?
Well, I said, you know how sometimes like the universe will bring you someone to send you a specific
Yeah.
message? So I
Yeah.
think this message about Michael Singer and like the practice to create more time and space, I think
Yeah.
is what you said. I think that's what I needed to hear. So yeah,
Yeah.
so thank
Oh
you
God.
very much for that. Yeah, do
Yeah.
you
I mean,
train with him like directly as well with Michael Singer? Do you ever go to the temple?
no, so I've not been to the temple. I mean, like, so my eldest brother, who's a real estate investor as well, actually, during the heyday of mobile home park investing, he bought a whole bunch, sold
Okay.
them to BlackRock, and so like I mean, essentially didn't
Just made
retire.
it. Yeah, made
Yeah,
it and
just
now
didn't work
meditating
after that.
as well.
He also has no kids, and so
Okay.
he didn't live at the temple. He actually lived in Gainesville, Florida, which is where it is, in a house. I mean, initially when I heard about it, though, I mean, I was kind of closed-minded about it, didn't really get the whole thing, but
Yeah. Sounds a
now
bit
that I've
culty.
been sort of, yeah, it's kind of culty. It's not
Yeah.
though, and now that I've been doing
Okay.
it for the past, 3 or 4 years, and just the impact that it has. Yeah, so I mean, I have never been taught by him directly. I am planning on going to the that temple to do an overnight, maybe ideally this year. I mean, I have two small young daughters, and my wife, you know, she
Hard
is
to get
open to doing,
time.
yeah,
Yeah.
but she seems somewhat open to it now.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I mean, so much of his teachings, though, have been taught to me through my brother as well as his fiance,
Okay.
who he actually met her at the temple. So,
Wow. Okay.
yeah, I mean, they were both basically drawn to the temple by that book, The Surrender Experiment. And there's people from all over the world that come to visit him. I mean, is pretty profound stuff.
Okay.
So,
Amazing.
yeah,
Okay. Well, I'm definitely gonna check it out. Well,
yeah,
it's
you
a
should.
pleasure. Yeah, it's a pleasure getting to know you and talking to you. And thank
Yeah,
you
it was good to chat
for
with you.
taking the time. And yeah, my
I hope
team
I
will.
did okay.
Yeah, no, you did great. You did great. Yeah, so my team's gonna edit that, and then when
Cool.
I post the shorter clips on
Yeah,
LinkedIn, I'll be sure to tag you.
amazing. Yeah, let's stay in touch, but this is great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, we'll talk soon. Have a great
Talk
evening.
soon. You
Okay,
too.
bye.
Bye.